Humans aren't crazy, but they sure act like they have a death wish. I took a long gulp of my strong Ferengi fire whiskey, savoring the burning sensation in my throat. The dim lights of the remote space station bar cast an eerie glow on my battle-scarred face. I am Tyro, a hardened Ferengi admiral who has seen the worst of war. A young Ferengi officer approached me, eyes wide with excitement. "Admiral Tyro, is that really you, the living legend?" I grunted, not in the mood for hero worship. "What do you want, kid?" "I've heard so many stories about your battles against the Krieg. Please, sir, could you share one with me?" I sighed, swirling my drink. Most of my stories were too grim and bloody for a young officer's ears, but the kid was persistent. "Fine. I'll tell you the most unbelievable tale from my career. The story of how a single human, Jeffrey Green, turned the tide of the Ferengi-Krieg War." The kid leaned in, hanging on my every word. I began to recount the desperate times when the Ferengi were losing badly to the Krieg, a ruthless insectoid race, hell-bent on exterminating us. Our fleets were decimated, our planets burned. We begged other races for aid, but none dared face the Krieg's overwhelming numbers. In a last desperate gamble, we turned to the humans, a clever but reckless species new to the galactic stage. I scoffed at the idea that humans could succeed where so many had failed or fled. But we had no choice. Only a single human platoon agreed to join the fight, led by Jeffrey Green, a brash, fearless commander. I told Green bluntly that he and his men would just be more meat for the Krieg grinder. But Green just grinned, a mad glint in his eye. "One way or another, bug boy, the Krieg will never forget the day they met the humans." I laughed in Green's face, but deep down a small part of me dared to hope. If we failed, the Ferengi race was doomed to extinction at the claws of the Krieg. Maybe, just maybe, these insane humans could pull off a miracle. "All right, human," I said, pouring a glass of fire whiskey and sliding it to Green. "You've got one chance to impress me. Show me what you're made of." Green downed the drink in one shot, slamming the glass on the table. "Just point me to the bugs, Admiral. It's time to show the Krieg why you don't fuck with humanity." The young officer sat riveted as I recounted our first battle alongside Jeffrey Green and his human platoon. We'd been tasked with defending a critical Ferengi refueling station against an imminent Krieg assault. I positioned Green's unit at a narrow choke point, fully expecting them to be overwhelmed and slaughtered. Their sacrifice would buy precious time for my Ferengi troops to mount a counterattack. But as the Krieg swarm surged towards the human position, I heard Green bark an order I never could have anticipated. "Fix bayonets." I stared in disbelief. Bayonets against the Krieg? Those ceremonial blades were barely sharp enough to cut fruit, let alone pierce the Krieg's notoriously thick exoskeletons. But to my amazement, Green's soldiers obeyed without hesitation. They opened fire, thinning the Krieg's numbers, and then they charged, straight into the teeth of the alien horde, screaming battle cries from 100 different Earth cultures. I watched the brutal melee unfold, my jaw hanging open in astonishment. Those flimsy human bayonets punched through the Krieg's armor like it was made of paper. The aliens began to drop by the score, their fluorescent blood spraying. And then I saw something I never thought I'd witness in my lifetime. The Krieg faltered. They'd never faced an enemy willing to engage them hand-to-hand like this. Close-quarters combat was as alien to them as mercy or surrender. Inspired by the humans' audacity, I rallied my own troops to join the fray. Ferengi and human fought side by side, a whirling dervish of blades and rifle butts. The Krieg assault crumbled. They fled, leaving piles of their dead behind. It was the first real defeat those vicious bugs had ever tasted. In the battle's aftermath, I pulled an exhausted but grinning Jeffrey Green aside. "How did you know those bayonets would work?" I asked, still half in shock. Green just shrugged. "I didn't, but sometimes you don't have the luxury of playing it safe." He shot me a wink as he cleaned his blood-soaked blade. "Besides, where's the fun in that?" It was at that moment I realized humans approached war in a fundamentally different way than any other species. They didn't just accept risk, they relished it. The young officer shook his head in awe as I finished my tale. "I can't believe it. Bayonets of all things, the Krig must have been shocked. You have no idea, I chuckled, draining the dregs of my fire whiskey, but that was just the beginning. Let me tell you about the time Jeffrey Green... The young officer's eyes were wide as saucers. Incredible. So the humans took down the Krig with a single strike. I nodded, signaling the bartender for another round. After that first victory with the bayonets, Green and his platoon fought alongside us in battle after battle. We started to drive the Krig back, reclaiming the territories they'd seized. But the damn bugs still outnumbered us 10-1. They could afford to throw away 100 lives for every one of ours. I shook my head, remembering the grim calculus of those days. Green knew we were winning battles but losing the war. That's when he came to me with his craziest plan yet. He wanted to infiltrate the Krig homeworld with a small team and take out their queen. The young Ferengi leaned forward, hanging on my every word. The Krig queen, but I thought she was just a legend. Oh, she was real all right. The Krig are a hive species, you see. The queen controls them all telepathically. Green figured that if we could kill her, the rest of the Krig would be paralyzed. I took a long pull from my fresh drink, savoring the burn. I told Green he was insane. Even if he could reach the Queen, the Krig would tear him and his men to shreds. But he just gave me that mad grin of his and said, "Trust me, Admiral, I've got a secret weapon." Against my better judgment, I agreed to his plan, but I had a Ferengi fleet standing by to extract them when it all went to hell. The young officer was practically quivering with anticipation. So what happened? Did they make it to the Queen? I chuckled darkly. For days I paced the bridge of my flagship, waiting for Green's distress call. Every hour that passed, I grew more certain that I'd sent those brave, foolish humans to their deaths. Then my comms officer turned to me, his face pale. "Admiral," he said, "we're getting reports from all over the front. The Krig, they've stopped moving. Their ships are just drifting." I paused, letting the memory wash over me. I ordered emergency scans of the Krig vessels. No life signs on any of them. It was like the whole damn species had just dropped dead. And then I heard Jeffrey Green's voice over the comms. "Admiral Tyro," he said, cool as ice, "the Krig Queen is dead. I repeat, the Queen is dead. The war is over." The young Ferengi's jaw dropped. How did they do it?" I spread my hands. Green told me afterwards they'd let themselves be captured, you see, brought before the Queen as offerings, and when they were close enough they broke out the neurotoxin. Neurotoxin? A poison, based on some kind of human insecticide. Green's team had cooked it up in secret. One whiff and the Queen just died, and because of their hive mind, the rest of the Krig died with her, instantly. I shook my head in wonder even now. I asked Green how he knew his poison would work. He just shrugged and said, "I had a hunch. Anyway, no guts, no glory, right?" Can you believe that? He'd gambled everything, the fate of my people, his own life, on a hunch. The young officer was silent for a long moment, absorbing the magnitude of what I'd told him. Humans are different, aren't they? I mean, the way they think, the way they fight. "Kid," I said, draining the last of my drink, "you don't know the half of it. See, here's the thing about humans. They trust their instincts, their gut feelings, more than any other species I've met. Even when the odds are impossible, even when logic says they should turn tail and run, they'll charge forward if they feel it's right." I leaned back, feeling the pleasant warmth of the fire whiskey in my belly. To a human, there's no reward without risk, no victory without daring. It's like they'd rather fail spectacularly than play it safe. That kind of thinking, it's damn near alien to folks like us. But maybe that's why they succeed where we fail. The young officer leaned forward, green eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Admiral, if I may ask, why did the humans agree to help us in the first place? We were strangers to them, and the Krig were a fearsome foe. What made them risk so much for us?" I smiled, the memories flooding back. "You know, I asked Jeffrey Green that same question after the war." I signaled the bartender for another round, settling into my chair. Green told me that when we first contacted Earth, the human leaders were split. Some wanted to help, seeing a chance to make humanity a major player on the galactic stage. But others balked at joining a war they saw as none of their business. The young Ferengi nodded, absorbing every word. I continued. Green said the arguments went back and forth for days, but then he stood up in their council chamber and gave a speech I'll never forget. I closed my eyes, recalling Green's words. He said, "The Ferengi came to us because no one else would help them. They're staring down extinction and we're here debating politics. I don't know about all of you, but I couldn't live with myself if we abandoned an entire species in their darkest hour. I'm going to fight for them with or without your blessing." The young officer's eyes widened. He was willing to go alone to defy his own leaders? "That's right," I said, but he didn't have to. Green's words struck a chord in the other humans. They voted unanimously to send us aid. I shook my head, still marveling. I was humbled, kid. We'd gone to the humans as a last resort, never dreaming they'd be so selfless. But Green made me realize something. Humans have a powerful sense of right and wrong, a moral conviction that compels them to act while others dither. The young Ferengi was quiet, processing the magnitude of what I'd said. I clapped him on the shoulder. "That's the thing about humans, son. They'll charge into hell itself if they believe the cause is just. It's what makes them so unpredictable and so damn admirable." The young Ferengi's eyes shone with excitement. "Admiral Tyro, your stories are incredible. The humans sound like the most amazing allies anyone could ask for. I would give anything to meet Commander Jeffrey Green and the other heroes who fought beside you." Tyro's face fell, his eyes growing distant. He took a long, slow sip of his drink before speaking. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, son. You see, after the war, things changed." He set his glass down, tracing his finger along the rim. "Oh, at first everything was wonderful. The humans and the Ferengi became the closest of friends and partners. We worked hand in hand to rebuild the worlds the Krieg had destroyed. Our technologies and cultures blended in ways we never could have imagined." Tyro's voice grew heavy. "But then the accident happened." The young officer leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Accident? What accident?" Tyro sighed deeply. "It was about 5 years after the war ended. We had established a joint research station, Ferengi and human scientists working together to develop new technologies. They were testing an experimental power source, something that could have revolutionized space travel." He paused, his eyes closing for a moment. "Something went wrong. There was an explosion, a blast so powerful it vaporized the entire station, and everyone on it." The young Ferengi gasped. "That's terrible. Was Commander Green—" Tyro nodded solemnly. He was there, along with several other key human leaders, and some of my closest friends and colleagues. They were all gone in an instant. He drained his glass, setting it down with a thud. "It was a blow like nothing we'd ever experienced, not even during the war. Both our species reeled from the loss, and in the aftermath, things began to change." Tyro leaned back, his eyes growing hard. "Some of my people started to question our alliance with the humans. They said the humans were too unpredictable, too prone to taking risks, that their boldness, which had once been our salvation, was now a liability." The young officer frowned. "But surely they couldn't blame the humans for an accident." Tyro shook his head. "Fear and grief can make people irrational. They started to say that we were better off on our own, that the humans would only lead us into more tragedy." He slammed his fist on the table, making the glasses jump. "But I knew they were wrong. I'd seen firsthand what the human spirit could achieve. Their daring, their determination. It was a gift, not a curse. I argued that we needed the humans, that we had to learn from their courage and resolve." Tyro's voice grew bitter. "But I was overruled. The Ferengi leadership began to distance themselves from our human allies. They put restrictions on trade, on shared research. The alliance that had burned so bright began to crumble." He gestured around at the dingy bar, the empty stools beside him. "And that's why I'm here, retired and alone, drowning my sorrows in this godforsaken corner of the galaxy, because I couldn't convince my own people to hold fast to the principles the humans had taught us." As the young officer made to stand, Tyro caught his arm. "Listen to me, son. The humans, for all their flaws, understood something we Ferengi have yet to grasp. That sometimes you have to stand up for what you believe in, no matter the cost. That the greatest risk is not to gamble and lose, but to never try at all. Tyro's grip tightened, his eyes blazing with a fervor the young Ferengi had not yet seen. That's the lesson the humans left us, and it's one we forget at our own peril. The galaxy is a dangerous place. If we hope to survive, to thrive, we need to be willing to take chances, to dare greatly, even if it means risking greatly. He released the young officer's arm, settling back into his chair. Remember that, young one. Remember the humans and honor their sacrifice, even if the rest of our species has forgotten. The young Ferengi nodded solemnly, his mind spinning with all he had heard. He stood, offering Tyro a deep bow of respect. Thank you, Admiral, for everything. I will carry your words with me, always. Tyro waved a dismissive hand, already reaching for the bottle to refill his glass. The young officer took one last look at the grizzled old warrior, then turned and walked out of the bar, stepping into the uncertain future that awaited him. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.